"The ring isn't safe," Maya whispered under her breath, eyes narrowing as the chandelier above flickered and sent fractured light dancing across the polished marble floors of the grand hall. The scent of fresh flowers mixing with faint traces of something metallic that made her stomach twist. She shifted on her toes, careful to stay in the shadows as the crowd of elegantly dressed guests laughed and chatted, oblivious to the danger concealed in plain sight, the soft echo of heels clicking against the floor, creating a rhythm that matched the pounding of her own heartbeat. Her small hands clenched into fists as she scanned every movement, the ornate decorations reflecting glimmers of gold and crystal, the wedding band lying innocuously in the bride's hand like a jewel too perfect to question. Yet her instincts screamed otherwise, the cool breeze from the open windows brushing against her dark curls, carrying the faint hum of distant music, the silverware glinting in the lamplight, the delicate hum of conversation filling the space. And still Maya felt the pressure of urgency pressing down on her chest, knowing that every second counted, her eyes tracing the bride's fingers, the subtle way the metal seemed to pulse under the light, a faint shimmer that only someone paying attention would notice, a detail others might dismiss as a trick of reflection. Maya's mind racing as she calculated the distance between herself and the unsuspecting bride, the route she would need to take to intervene without drawing too much attention. The air thick with perfume and anticipation, the guests swaying gently to the music, unaware that a young girl's courage might soon alter the course of the evening. The soft rustle of silk skirts and the glint of cufflinks capturing her peripheral vision, Maya inhaled slowly, grounding herself, letting the cool air fill her lungs. The weight of responsibility settling onto her small shoulders, and as the officiant's voice rose in ceremonial greeting, she tightened her grip on her small satchel, knowing that inside it she carried not just notes and trinkets, but the evidence that could avert disaster, her gaze flicking to the ornate railing above, imagining the vantage point it might provide, the shadows of the balcony stretching like fingers across the floor, the soft murmur of guests blending with the distant toll of the clock, each chime a reminder of the seconds slipping by. And with one final breath, Maya began to move, weaving carefully between tables, the delicate lace of tablecloths brushing against her fingertips, the scent of polished wood and flowers filling her senses, each step deliberate, calculated, yet quick enough to close the distance to the bride, her eyes never leaving the ring, never blinking, absorbing every subtle cue, every slight shift in posture, every glint of reflection, knowing that one misstep could allow the danger to reach its target. Her tiny frame propelled by focus and determination, heart thrumming in rhythm with the unfolding ceremony, the world narrowing around her to the space between herself and the gleaming ring, anticipation coiling tight in her chest. And as the music swelled to a crescendo, Maya's hand inched forward, ready to act, aware that the outcome of the night rested in the smallest of hands, her courage poised to intersect with fate. The music swelled softly as Maya inched closer to the center of the hall, her small feet barely making a sound against the polished marble, the flickering candlelight reflecting in her wide, determined eyes as she scanned the gathering crowd, the subtle shimmer of silk dresses and polished shoes creating a moving mosaic around her. She paused near a long table lined with crystal goblets and gleaming silverware, noting the intricate patterns etched into each plate, the delicate clinking of glasses punctuating the hum of conversations, the faint scent of roses and citrus drifting through the air mingling with the warmth of the hall. And she took a slow breath to steady her nerves, feeling the weight of the moment pressing gently against her chest, every muscle taut, every sense heightened, her dark curls brushing lightly against her shoulders as she adjusted the strap of her satchel. The quiet rustle of fabric a reminder of her presence, yet her determination to remain unnoticed. Across the hall, the bride and groom moved in. Careful steps along the aisle, their smiles practiced, their hands entwined, oblivious to the subtle anomaly in the jewelry glinting against the bride's fingers, a detail so fine that only someone paying the closest attention could detect the faint irregularity. Maya's gaze locked onto it, analyzing the tiny shift in color, the micro-reflections in the polished metal, the minuscule vibration in the air around it. her mind racing to calculate the distance and the safest path to intervene without drawing attention, weaving carefully between guests engrossed in their chatter, her heartbeat echoing in her ears in rhythm with the soft classical music playing, the delicate footfalls of her own movement blending seamlessly into the hall's symphony of sounds, the scent of polished wood and wax filling her senses as she edged nearer, noticing the subtle change in temperature. A cool draft that hinted at the unseen hazard looming in proximity, her small hands flexing as she prepared to act, mentally rehearsing the steps she would need to take to intercept the danger, her eyes flicking to the attendants moving trays of refreshments, their movements precise and elegant, and calculating the moments she could slip past without being noticed, the soft murmur of conversation forming a background hum as she approached the foot of the dais, the intricate carpet patterns beneath her shoes guiding each careful step, every detail magnified in her mind as though the hall had shrunk to the space between herself and the glowing ring, and she could feel the weight of responsibility settle like a cloak around her shoulders, the anticipation coiling tight within her chest as she prepared for the critical moment where perception and action would meet, each second stretching and bending with the tension, her gaze never leaving the target, noting the glint of light from the chandelier above, the faint shimmer across the bride's hand, the slight pause in the groom's movement, the near, imperceptible shift in air pressure as everyone's attention remained elsewhere, and Maya, small yet resolute, edged forward, her breath steady, her mind clear, and every fiber of her being focused on one goal: to make the choice that could change the evening before it truly began. The soft strains of a string quartet filled the hall as Maya adjusted her stance near the edge of the aisle, her small frame almost invisible against the towering floral arrangements, the scent of lilies and jasmine mingling with the polished wood and crystal, every detail sharp in her mind as she tracked the subtle movements of the bride and her attendants, the flicker of candlelight casting elongated shadows across the marble floor, her dark eyes fixed on the shimmering ring that seemed to hold an unnatural gleam, a detail so slight that it could be mistaken for a reflection, yet Maya sensed the energy radiating from it, a faint hum that pricked at her awareness, a whisper only someone attuned could hear, and she moved with careful precision, weaving between clusters of guests who raised glasses and exchanged smiles, oblivious to the urgency of her mission, the gentle clatter of silverware and the soft murmur of conversation forming a backdrop that amplified her heightened focus. Each step measured, her shoes barely making a sound on the polished surface, her fingers brushing against the lace of tablecloths and the delicate folds of napkins, the air cool and fragrant around her, carrying the faint rustle of silk and the low vibration of conversation, and she paused momentarily behind a gilded chair, assessing the distance and timing, the smallest shifts in body language from the bride and groom guiding her next movement, the faint shimmer of light across the band, catching her attention once more, and in that instant, Maya took a deep, steadying breath, the weight of responsibility pressing gently on her shoulders, the rhythm of her heartbeat syncing with the subtle swell of music as she prepared to step forward, her eyes never leaving the delicate piece of jewelry that could change everything in a single moment. The warmth of the room contrasting with the cool draft that hinted at the invisible tension she alone seemed to perceive, the soft glow of chandeliers above refracting in her wide, focused eyes, the distant laughter and clinking of glasses fading slightly as her senses narrowed to the single point of concern, the tiny pulse of energy from the ring, a signal that sharpened her instincts, and with deliberate calm, Maya inched closer, each movement precise, intentional, every fiber of her being attuned to the subtle cues around her, ready to intercept the unfolding danger with quiet courage, knowing that even a small action could ripple outward and alter the course of the evening in ways that no one yet imagined. The anticipation coiling like a spring in her chest, her breath measured, eyes fixed, and her mind honed on the single truth she must act upon before it was too late, the world around her narrowing to the delicate glint of metal in motion, the faint echo of footsteps and hushed voices marking the passage of time as she prepared to make her move, fully aware that the outcome rested in her hands and in her ability to remain unseen until the precise moment when intervention could save the night from unseen calamity. The bride's hand hovered over the ring once more, delicate fingers catching the soft glow of the chandeliers above, Maya's dark eyes tracking every subtle movement. The polished marble reflecting 1,000 points of light that shimmered across the hall like stars captured indoors. The scent of roses and freshly baked bread mingling with the faint metallic tang in the air, a subtle vibration that made her pulse quicken. Each step she took measured and silent as she navigated between clusters of guests who laughed and sipped sparkling cider, oblivious to the tension building with every second, the gentle rustle of gowns and the faint clink of cutlery creating a rhythm that mirrored the beat of her heart. Maya crouched slightly behind an ornate column, observing the interplay of shadows and light on the bride's arm, the slight tremor that almost imperceptibly altered the way the ring caught the illumination, her fingers flexing lightly as she adjusted the strap of her satchel, preparing for the precise moment when she could intervene, the cool draft from the open windows brushing against her skin, carrying a hint of jasmine and citrus, the soft hum of conversation providing a constant backdrop, and she could feel the anticipation coiling in her chest like a spring, ready to release, the distance between her and the bride shrinking with each careful step, the delicate lace of tablecloths brushing against her fingertips, the reflective surfaces of crystal goblets sending tiny sparkles across the floor, catching her attention and sharpening her focus, the music swelling softly as the string quartet played, rising and falling with each measure, echoing faintly against the vaulted ceilings, Maya's gaze never leaving the faint shimmer on the ring, the subtle difference in hue that marked the irregularity, the gentle murmur of guests blending into a soft background as she calculated her approach, eyes tracing the line of sight of the bride and groom, noting every tilt of the head, every micro-expression, the way the light shifted across polished shoes and gleaming jewelry, her small frame moving with deliberate stealth, heart pounding in synchrony with the distant chimes of the grandfather clock, the faint scent of wax and polished wood filling her senses, the soft hum of the heating vents adding another layer to the symphony of subtle sounds. Maya adjusted her balance, leaning lightly against the column, taking a controlled breath, muscles coiled and ready, mind sharp and focused, the world narrowing to the single point of concern, the glint of metal and the rhythm of the ceremony, each moment stretching and bending as if time itself had slowed to match the urgency of her task, and with the next beat of the music, she prepared to step forward, aware that her courage and attentiveness were the only shields against what might unfold, the subtle tension in the air thick enough to taste, carrying with it the quiet knowledge that the outcome rested in her small, determined hands, poised to intersect with fate at any second, and the hall itself seemed to hold its breath in anticipation of what was about to happen. The music softened into a gentle cadence as Maya inched closer to the bride, her small frame barely noticeable among the towering floral arrangements and elegantly dressed guests, the polished marble floor reflecting countless points of light from chandeliers above, each flicker casting delicate patterns across the room, the soft scent of roses and citrus mingling with the warmth of the hall, Maya's breath steady, her dark eyes absorbing every minute detail, the subtle shimmer of the ring catching her attention once more, tiny reflections dancing like sparks, her mind calculating the exact path to reach the bride without drawing notice. The gentle rustle of silk and soft clinking of glasses forming a backdrop that heightened her awareness, her fingers brushing lightly against the folds of tablecloths and the edges of chairs as she moved, muscles coiled and ready, the distant hum of conversation and the low murmur of laughter surrounding her as she threaded between groups of guests, noting every tilt of a head, every shift of weight, the soft sway of dresses, the polished shine of shoes, and the subtle sparkle of jewelry that might distract or reveal her presence. Maya paused momentarily behind a gilded pillar, letting her eyes trace the bride's hand. As it hovered above the ring, the gentle flicker of candlelight casting shadows across delicate skin, the faint vibration in the air around the ring prickling at her senses, the temperature shifting imperceptibly as though the hall itself sensed the approaching action, her heart beating in synchrony with the slow crescendo of the string quartet, the soft echo of the music against the vaulted ceilings blending with the whispers of guests and the delicate chime of crystal glasses, each sound sharpening her focus as she adjusted the strap of her satchel and took a controlled breath, centering herself for the precise moment, aware of the distance she must cover, the subtle movements of the bride and groom dictating her timing, the tiny shimmer across the ring a beacon that guided her, every micro-reflection and shadow noted and interpreted, the room narrowing around her perception, everything extraneous fading into the periphery, leaving only the path, the target, and her own. Cautious, deliberate steps, the anticipation tightening in her chest like a spring ready to release, the air around her thick with expectancy, the faint scent of polished wood and wax carrying hints of urgency, the soft murmur of conversation fading to a gentle background hum as she prepared to step forward, each movement measured, deliberate, and silent, her senses fully attuned to the faintest changes, the smallest cues, ready to act with quiet precision. The hall itself seeming to hold its breath in anticipation, and Maya, small but resolute, advanced with unwavering focus, every fiber of her being alert, every thought concentrated on the singular goal of reaching the bride and influencing the course of the evening before the unfolding moments could tip beyond her control, the anticipation and tension coiling tightly in her chest as she moved, fully aware that the success of her subtle intervention depended upon patience, timing, and courage, and that the entire evening hung delicately upon the choices she was about to make. The gentle murmur of guests mingled with the soft strains of string instruments as Maya edged closer, her small frame weaving through clusters of chairs and bouquets, every step precise, every movement calculated, the polished marble floor reflecting the light of crystal chandeliers in fractured patterns that danced across her focused eyes, the faint scent of roses and citrus carrying a subtle tension that made her pulse quicken, her dark curls brushing lightly against her shoulders, the soft rustle of silk and the delicate click of polished shoes forming a rhythmic background to her careful approach, her gaze fixed unwaveringly on the bride's hand and the ring that gleamed unnaturally, catching the light at angles that seemed almost deliberate, the faintest vibration in the air hinting at the hidden hazard, Maya's small hands flexing instinctively as she calculated the distance to intercept, her breath steady, muscles coiled in anticipation, the hall seeming to hold its breath in. Quiet awareness of the unfolding moment, the soft echo of conversation fading into a background hum as her focus sharpened, noting each subtle shift in posture, each tilt of the head, each minuscule gesture, the flicker of candlelight across polished surfaces and crystal glass guiding her path, the gentle hum of music swelling in harmony with the quickening beat of her heart. Maya pausing briefly behind a gilded pillar, her eyes sweeping the room, measuring angles, distances, and timing with near-perfect precision, the air tinged with anticipation and the warm scent of polished wood and wax, the soft movement of guests carrying their laughter and light chatter across the hall, yet all unnoticed by Maya as she narrowed the world to the single point of concern. The delicate shimmer on the ring that marked the anomaly, each micro-reflection captured in her mind. The subtle changes in light and shadow informing her next step, the gentle sway of dresses and the glint of polished shoes forming a complex landscape she navigated with skill and intent, her mind a precise calculation of timing, distance, and impact, her body poised to act without drawing attention, the faint hum of tension threading through the hall as she advanced, aware that a single misstep could alter the outcome, each careful movement bringing her closer, the anticipation coiling tighter. In her chest, the weight of responsibility settling lightly yet firmly on her small shoulders, the rhythmic beat of her pulse and the swelling of the music combining into a singular cadence that guided her as she moved with quiet determination toward the critical point where perception, timing, and courage would converge, and with each step, the world narrowed further, focusing entirely on the small, resolute figure advancing through a sea of oblivious guests, every fiber of her being attuned to the subtle cues, the shimmer of light, the hum of anticipation, and the delicate balance of proximity and patience required to intervene at precisely the right moment, the hall alive with expectation, yet unaware of the small hand poised to alter the course of the evening. The soft glow of the chandeliers reflected off the polished marble floor as Maya crept closer, her small frame moving with careful precision through clusters of oblivious guests, the gentle hum of conversation mingling with the faint strains of the string quartet, the air thick with the scent of roses and wax. Each step measured as she navigated around tables laden with crystal goblets and polished silverware, her dark eyes fixed unwaveringly on the bride's hand, the ring catching the light in a subtle shimmer that pulsed almost imperceptibly. Maya's fingers flexing as she calculated the exact moment to intervene, the cool draft from open windows brushing against her face, carrying the faint aroma of citrus and the distant sound of laughter, her heart beating steadily yet rapidly in anticipation, muscles coiled and ready. The delicate rustle of silk and soft footfalls of other guests forming a rhythmic backdrop to her silent advance, the ornate floral arrangements creating both obstacles and cover, shadows stretching across the hall in elongated patterns that shifted with each flicker of candlelight. Maya crouching slightly to maintain a low profile, while her mind traced the path ahead, noting every micro-movement of the bride and attendants, the tilt of a head, the slight shift of a hand, each subtle cue informing her next careful step. The polished surfaces of glass and silver reflecting the light in tiny, distracting points that she absorbed without falter, the soft echo of music and distant chatter forming a gentle symphony around her heightened senses. Maya adjusting her pace, timing her approach with the slow rise of the music and the movement of the bridal party, her gaze locked on the glimmering ring, the faint vibration in the air around it sharpening her focus. Each second stretching with tension as the anticipation built, the weight of responsibility pressing gently but firmly on her small shoulders, the world narrowing to the space between herself and the bride, every fiber of her being attuned to the subtle cues of light, sound, and movement, the hall itself seeming to hold its breath as Maya advanced, the rhythmic beat of her pulse and the swell of music intertwining, guiding her with precision, each movement deliberate, silent, and intent. The scent of polished wood and fresh flowers grounding her senses as she neared the critical point, fully aware that her actions in the next moments would determine the outcome, her body poised to act, the anticipation coiling tightly in her chest, every detail captured in her mind, the soft sway of dresses, the glint of shoes and jewelry, the faintest reflection of candlelight on polished surfaces, all guiding her to the delicate balance of timing, proximity, and courage required to influence the unfolding events. Maya stepping carefully forward, ready to intervene with quiet determination, the hall alive with elegance and anticipation, yet unaware of the small figure moving resolutely to change the course of the evening. Every breath, every movement, every heartbeat focused on the singular goal that lay just a few feet ahead, the tension and focus mingling in a silent crescendo as she approached the decisive moment with unwavering resolve. The room seemed to hold its breath as Maya drew even closer, her small frame weaving carefully through the crowd, eyes sharp and unblinking, the polished marble reflecting fractured light from the chandeliers above in 1,000 scattered points that flickered across the hall like tiny stars, the scent of roses and citrus mixing with the faint tang of polished wood and wax. Every step deliberate as she passed tables laden with crystal goblets and gleaming silverware, the soft hum of conversation and gentle strains of music forming a backdrop that heightened her awareness. Each movement measured to avoid drawing attention, her dark curls brushing lightly against her shoulders, the delicate rustle of silk and satin as guests shifted around her, the subtle tilt of a head, the slight gesture of a hand, all noted and catalogued in her mind as she approached the critical space between herself and the bride, the ring catching the light at angles that seemed almost alive, pulsing faintly as though sensing the attention it drew, Maya's fingers flexing as she calculated the precise moment to reach out, the cool draft from open windows brushing her face and carrying whispers of laughter and conversation, her heartbeat syncing with the gentle crescendo of the string quartet, muscles coiled and ready, senses sharpened to the smallest shifts in light, shadow, and movement. The polished surfaces of glass and metal reflecting tiny points of illumination that guided her path. Each micro-reflection absorbed and interpreted, the soft echo of music against the vaulted ceilings adding a subtle rhythm to her careful advance. the air thick with anticipation and quiet urgency. Maya crouched slightly behind a gilded column to recalibrate her approach, observing the intricate patterns of light on the floor and the delicate sway of dresses and gestures of hands, timing each movement with the rise and fall of music, the soft murmur of conversation forming a gentle cushion around her heightened focus. The hall itself seeming to lean inward as she moved with silent precision, aware that a single misstep could alter the outcome, every fiber of her being attuned to the shimmering ring and the subtle signals of those around it, the soft glint of silver and crystal providing cues for her next step, anticipation coiling tightly in her chest as she prepared to bridge the final distance, breath controlled, eyes locked on the small, gleaming target, the world narrowing to the space between her and the bride, every sense heightened, muscles ready to respond with the utmost care, timing and patience guiding her, the gentle swirl of light and shadow, the faint hum of voices, the soft scent of flowers, all converging to create the perfect conditions for her to act. Maya stepping lightly forward, each movement deliberate and measured, fully aware that the success of the evening rested on her ability to navigate this delicate moment with courage, precision, and unwavering focus. The hall alive with quiet tension and expectation, yet no one noticing the small figure moving determinately through the elegant chaos, every heartbeat, every step, every flicker of light guiding her toward the critical point where action and timing would intersect to shape the outcome of the night. The air seemed to tighten around Maya as she reached the final stretch toward the bride, her small feet moving soundlessly across the polished marble, the flicker of chandeliers casting fractured reflections across the floor and delicate crystal goblets, the scent of fresh roses blending with the warmth of the hall, and a faint trace of wax from polished surfaces, every detail sharpened in her mind. From the slight tremor of the bride's hand to the gentle sway of guests' gowns, each movement of hers precise and measured, muscles coiled and ready, dark eyes fixed on the glimmering ring that seemed to pulse subtly under the warm light, the soft hum of music rising and falling around her like a tide, mingling with the gentle murmur of conversation, providing a rhythm that guided her steps, the faintest vibrations of air carrying tiny hints of motion and energy that Maya interpreted instinctively, the subtle reflection of light off the ring signaling the critical moment. Approaching, her fingers flexing slightly in anticipation, adjusting the strap of her satchel for balance as she crouched and leaned forward, careful to keep her presence unnoticed while her focus remained entirely on the delicate task ahead, the distance closing between her and the bride, each heartbeat echoing in her chest as the tension coiled tighter, anticipation and determination mixing into a singular focus. Her mind cataloging every micro-movement of the guests, the slight shift in posture of the attendants, the way light glimmered across silverware and polished shoes, every detail feeding into a precise calculation of timing and placement, the hall itself seeming to lean in with her, the soft scent of flowers and wax heavy in the air, the flicker of candlelight on polished surfaces marking intervals of time and space for her careful advance. Maya inched closer, awareness heightened to the smallest variations in movement and sound, the soft clatter of crystal and murmurs of conversation forming a faint symphony against which she measured her own rhythm, the shimmer of the ring glinting at just the right angle, a subtle cue that guided her final steps, the soft echo of music through the vaulted ceilings carrying a slow crescendo that aligned perfectly with the careful approach she made, muscles tense, breath steady, heart beating in quiet sync with the swell of the hall's energy, every sense focused entirely on the small, critical point that could change the evening, the world narrowing to the space between her and the bride, the anticipation nearly tangible in the air as Maya prepared to act with unwavering precision, aware that her next motion, small though it might be, would ripple across the room and determine the outcome. And as she extended her hand carefully, eyes fixed, body poised, the hall seemed to pause in collective suspense, the elegant chaos frozen in delicate equilibrium, the soft light reflecting off crystal and metal capturing the moment just before action, every element of the room aligned with her purpose, her courage and determination culminating in this single, decisive instant as the evening's fate rested on the quiet resolve of her small, observant frame. The hall seemed to suspend itself in a fragile balance as Maya's hand reached the edge of the bride's wrist, the chandeliers above scattering light across the polished marble in fractured, glimmering patterns that danced over her dark eyes and delicate features, the soft scent of roses and wax filling her senses as she leaned forward, every muscle coiled, every breath measured. The faint murmur of conversation blending with the rising swell of string instruments, the subtle rustle of silk gowns, and the clinking of silverware forming a gentle symphony against which she gauged her movement. The small pulse of energy she had felt earlier now crystallizing into a clear signal that the moment was at hand, her fingers trembling slightly as she adjusted her grip on the strap of her satchel, calculating the final distance and timing with near-perfect precision. The polished crystal goblets and silverware reflecting light in tiny flashes that guided her path without revealing her presence. The slight shift in posture of the bride and attendants marking the cadence of the moment. The ambient warmth of the hall contrasting with the cool draft from open windows that brushed her skin, heightening her awareness. Each flicker of candlelight, every minor reflection on polished surfaces, and every subtle vibration in the air contributing to a precise mental map she had constructed in seconds. The soft hum of conversation fading into the background as her focus narrowed to the glinting ring. The delicate metal catching the chandelier's glow in a way that seemed almost alive, pulsing with quiet energy, Maya's small body moving with deliberate care, each step synchronized with the faint rhythm of the music and the gentle sway of guests. The anticipation coiling tightly in her chest like a spring, every heartbeat echoing the subtle urgency of the moment, her mind cataloging each detail of light, shadow, and movement, every micro-expression, every minute gesture, combining into a singular awareness that guided her actions. The hall itself seeming to lean in as if aware of her intention, the polished surfaces and reflective patterns forming an intricate puzzle she navigated with instinctive precision, the faint scent of polished wood and delicate flowers anchoring her senses as she closed the final distance, the air dense with expectation yet soft with elegance, Maya's fingers brushing lightly against the bride's wrist, subtle yet deliberate, her eyes fixed on the slight shimmer that revealed the hidden irregularity, her breath steady, body poised to act, the soft swell of music, the gentle murmur of guests, and the fractured reflections from chandeliers converging to create a perfect moment in which perception, timing, and courage met. And in that instant, Maya's careful intervention aligned with the unfolding events, the quiet determination in her small frame holding the potential to change the course of the evening. Every sense heightened, every movement measured, as she became the silent pivot around which the room's delicate balance would turn. The tension and anticipation reaching a peak, the elegant chaos of the hall suspended in perfect equilibrium as the critical instant stretched and held, Maya fully aware that her action, small yet resolute, would ripple across the hall and shape the unfolding night. The tension in the hall seemed to stretch endlessly as Maya steadied herself, her small hand holding the bride's wrist just long enough to ensure the delicate ring remained in place. The chandeliers above scattering fractured light across the polished marble, the glow reflecting in her determined dark eyes, every sense heightened. The faint scent of roses and wax mingling with the warmth of the room and the subtle draft from open windows brushing against her, the soft strains of the string quartet rising and falling like a tide, guiding the rhythm of her movements, the rustle of silk and satin forming a gentle symphony against which she measured each step, the polished crystal goblets and silverware glinting with tiny flashes of light that marked intervals for her precise timing. The murmurs of guests fading into a background hum as she focused entirely on the subtle shimmer of the ring. The faint vibration in the air around it now unmistakable, signaling the culmination of her careful approach. Maya's fingers flexing slightly, adjusting her hold to maintain control without alarming the bride. Every muscle in her small body coiled and ready, the polished marble beneath her shoes echoing softly with her careful steps, the soft sway of gowns and tilt of heads providing both obstacle and cover as she navigated the final distance, the light catching the ring in a way that seemed almost alive. Pulsing faintly under the warm illumination, the ambient warmth of the hall contrasting with the cool streak of air that heightened her awareness and focus. The room itself seeming to pause in acknowledgement of the delicate action unfolding. The music swelling gently in harmony with the faint heartbeat-like rhythm of her own pulse. The guests entirely unaware of the invisible thread of tension threading through the hall as Maya held the critical point in her small hands. The polished surfaces of silver and crystal forming a reflective map for her to gauge distance and timing, the soft scent of flowers anchoring her senses as she concentrated, the subtle glimmer of the chandeliers above, and the minute reflections off glass and polished shoes providing visual cues, each fraction of movement accounted for in her mind, as she prepared for the precise moment when influence would be possible, her breath steady, eyes locked on the ring and the bride's gentle hand. The anticipation coiling tightly in her chest as seconds stretched, every fiber of her being attuned to the nuanced interplay of light, sound, and motion, the polished marble and gilded columns framing her careful advance, the subtle rhythm of music and conversation around her blending into a perfect backdrop for the critical intervention, the elegance of the hall suspended in quiet expectation as Maya held her position, the small, resolute figure a pivot upon which the evening's outcome depended, her courage and focus converging in that instant as she maintained the delicate balance of action and patience, fully aware that her next movement, though silent and almost imperceptible, would ensure the subtle but vital influence required to guide the unfolding events safely and effectively. The gentle warmth of candlelight illuminating her features, the soft reflections across crystal and metal marking the precision of her advance, and the hall itself seeming to lean inward, holding its collective breath as Maya, unwavering and resolute, completed the critical act with quiet determination, the soft hum of music and murmurs blending seamlessly with the weight of anticipation. Every sense and motion perfectly aligned for the pivotal moment of intervention. The hall exhaled a collective sigh as Maya slowly withdrew her hand, the delicate tension dissolving into a ripple of relief that passed unnoticed by most guests. The chandeliers above casting fractured light across the polished marble, reflecting off crystal goblets and silverware in a soft shimmer that seemed to celebrate the small, quiet triumph. The scent of roses and citrus lingering in the air, mingling with the warmth of polished wood and wax, her dark eyes scanning the room as she stepped back into the shadows, muscles relaxing, heartbeat gradually settling from the heightened rhythm of the past minutes. The gentle hum of conversation and the soft strains of the string quartet resuming their rhythm, forming a comforting backdrop. Maya's gaze lingering on the bride and groom as they adjusted the ring with curiosity and mild confusion, the slight glimmer revealing nothing overtly amiss, the subtle anomaly now harmless, her small frame absorbing the elegance and beauty of the hall around her, the intricate patterns of light and shadow dancing across silk gowns and polished shoes, the delicate swaying of guests and faint rustle of fabric creating a gentle rhythm that accompanied her cautious retreat, her senses still attuned to the tiniest cues, the shimmer of reflections across crystal and metal providing reassurance that all was now calm. The air warm, yet carrying a faint cool draft from open windows that brushed softly against her skin, the quiet murmur of polite laughter and conversation marking the passage of time, Maya allowing herself a small, controlled breath as the weight of responsibility eased from her shoulders. The soft glimmer of chandeliers and polished surfaces catching her attention one last time as she surveyed the hall, noting the serene expressions of the guests, the slight tilt of heads, the gentle gestures of hands and movements of fabric that signaled a return to normalcy, the polished marble reflecting her own shadow as she moved toward a more discreet position, taking in the subtle nuances of light, sound, and scent, each detail reinforcing the success of her careful actions. The gentle rhythm of the music and the hushed murmur of voices blending into a soothing symphony, Maya's mind replaying the precise moments, the careful calculations, and the courage that had guided her, the delicate balance of timing and awareness that had ensured the quiet triumph. Her dark eyes reflecting the warm glow of the chandeliers as she observed the bride and groom adjusting to the subtle but vital intervention. The the soft exhalation of relief mingling with the lingering scent of roses and polished surfaces. The elegance of the hall fully restored, yet imbued now with a sense of delicate awareness, the polished marble, crystal, and silver surfaces catching light in gentle, fractured patterns as Maya allowed herself a slow, steady breath, muscles fully relaxed yet senses still alert, the quiet satisfaction of a successful, unseen intervention settling over her small frame, the hall alive with soft murmurs, gentle music, and the residual warmth of anticipation now transformed into calm observation. Every subtle detail of light, reflection, and scent weaving together into a serene acknowledgement of the moment's quiet triumph and the small figure whose focus, courage, and precision had preserved the elegance and safety of the evening. The hall had settled into a quiet rhythm once more. Chandeliers scattering fractured light across polished marble floors, soft reflections dancing along crystal goblets and gleaming silverware, the scent of roses and fresh citrus lingering as Maya stood slightly apart, small but steady, absorbing the serenity she had helped preserve, her dark eyes tracing the gentle movements of guests who now laughed and conversed with relaxed expressions. The soft strains of the string quartet, flowing in harmonious waves that rose and fell with subtle crescendos, the polished surfaces reflecting every flicker of candlelight in delicate patterns, the warmth of the room embracing her as she allowed a slow, controlled breath to pass, muscles releasing their tension yet remaining alert, the cool draft from open windows brushing against her face and carrying hints of the evening air from the gardens beyond, Maya's mind replaying the moments of careful observation, precise calculation, and quiet courage that had guided her actions, every micro detail of light, shadow, and subtle reflection registering in her memory as a testament to patience and focus. The soft rustle of silk gowns, the gentle tap of polished shoes against marble, the faint hum of conversation forming a soothing symphony around her as she stepped back to observe the wider scene, the bride and groom adjusting their rings with mild curiosity, unaware of the precise intervention that had preserved the elegance and safety of the moment, the delicate shimmer of crystal and silver catching the light in tiny, reassuring flashes, Maya noticing the subtle smiles and relaxed gestures of attendants and guests alike, the interplay of shadow and illumination across their faces and attire forming an intricate tapestry of calm and restored order, her small frame poised in the background, dark eyes bright with quiet satisfaction, absorbing the elegance of the hall and the subtle relief in the air, the scent of polished wood, flowers, and wax grounding her senses as she watched the soft movements of the evening resume, each gesture, glance, and motion forming a pattern that spoke of normalcy and gentle celebration, the music swelling slightly, as if acknowledging the resolution, the gentle rise and fall of each note mirroring the relaxation spreading through the room, Maya allowing herself to exhale fully, the tension that had coiled tight in her chest now replaced by a delicate pride, her gaze sweeping the hall, noting every reflection, shadow, and shimmer, the polished marble, crystal, and silver surfaces catching light in fractured, glimmering patterns that seemed to honor the subtle act that had preserved the night, the soft hum of conversation, the rustle of gowns, the faint aroma of flowers and fresh air combining to create an atmosphere of serene continuity, Maya standing small yet resilient, a quiet pivot upon which the elegance and harmony of the evening now rested, her mind absorbing the final details, aware that the calm, polished surfaces, the glimmering reflections, and the gentle music were all now aligned with the outcome she had ensured, the soft light illuminating her face and the surrounding hall creating a tableau of quiet triumph and delicate wonder, every sense attuned to the serene energy that now filled the space, the world around her reflecting calm, grace, and subtle acknowledgement of the courage and focus that had guided a small hand to shape the course of an evening. And as she allowed her eyes to rest on the peaceful scene, a soft, unspoken thought lingered in her mind, that even the smallest voice, the smallest action, could create ripples that reached far beyond what anyone could see, leaving the hall bathed in light, reflection, and a sense of quiet awe at the power of attentive observation, courage, and human determination.